The Curse of the Pharaoh. The untold truth behind Tutankhamun's tomb. When one thinks of ancient Egypt, a sense of mystique and wonder immediately comes to mind. Majestic pyramids at Giza, the enigmatic Sphinx, mesmerizing hieroglyphs, and vivid tomb murals. But today, we're diving into another unsolved Egyptian mystery that has both fascinated and terrified the world for over a century. The infamous curse of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. According to legend, anyone who dares disturb the boy king's eternal slumber is doomed to death. But is there any truth to this chilling curse? The discovery of Tutankhamun. Death shall come on swift wings to those who disturb the king's peace. This ominous warning was said to be inscribed at the entrance to Tutankhamun's tomb. But it didn't deter the fearless explorers who sought it out. It was November 1922. In the dusty heat of Egypt, British archaeologist Howard Carter sat in a tent, weary and discouraged. After years of excavating the Valley of the Kings, he still hadn't found the elusive tomb. But as he sighed and settled into his camp chair, his mind drifted back over the journey that brought him here. Carter had been fascinated by Egypt since childhood. At 17, he began working on digs in Egypt, notably at Beni Hazen, and by 25, he had become the chief inspector for Upper Egypt. However, after clashing with locals over tomb robbers, he was reassigned, and eventually resigned. In frustration following an incident involving tourists. Disheartened, he spent the next 3 years making a living by painting archaeological scenes. But in 1907, a new opportunity arose. Lord George Carnarvon, a wealthy British aristocrat, agreed to fund Carter's expedition to excavate the Valley of the Kings, a burial site for New Kingdom pharaohs and nobility. Despite skepticism from other archaeologists, Carter was determined to find Tutankhamun's tomb. Tutankhamun had died young, at around 18. And while his reign wasn't particularly notable, Carter believed his royal status meant he had to be buried somewhere grand. Yet 5 years of digging yielded nothing. Frustrated, Lord Carnarvon issued an ultimatum: produce results, or the funding ends. Then came November 4, 1922, the day everything changed. A 12-year-old waterboy named Hussein Abadi El Razel, mimicking the archaeologists, was tapping around with a stick when he struck something solid, a stone step. Carter, experienced enough to recognize the significance by sound alone, immediately ordered a careful excavation. By the next day, they had uncovered a staircase and a sealed entrance. The ancient seal suggested they had found an untouched pharaoh's tomb, buried for more than 3,300 years. On November 26th, Carter and Carnarvon broke the seal and stepped inside. Unlike other royal tombs, which had long been looted, Tutankhamun's resting place was miraculously intact. Inside were over 5,000 artifacts, glittering gold, exquisite jewelry, and of course, the iconic golden death mask of the boy king. But as the world celebrated this monumental discovery, something darker began to unfold. The pharaoh's curse begins. Shortly after entering the tomb, Lord Carnarvon felt a sting on his left cheek. The area began to swell, forming a painful bump. One day, while shaving, he accidentally nicked the sore. Within days, he was suffering from a high fever, muscle aches, and an overwhelming sense of dread. The infection spread quickly, turning into sepsis. On April 5, 1923, at 2 a.m., Carnarvon passed away. His daughter later recalled his final moments, claiming he cried out, "I have heard his call, I must go to him." Moments later, he died in agony. The press had a field day. Headlines blared. "The curse of the Pharaoh strikes." Even famed author Arthur Conan Doyle, creator of Sherlock Holmes, declared Carnarvon had been killed by supernatural forces guarding the tomb. And the deaths didn't stop there. Over the next few years, 21 people connected to the tomb. Archaeologists, financiers, tourists, died under mysterious or tragic circumstances. Among them, George J. Gould, a close friend of Carnarvon, visited the tomb and died shortly after from fever and pneumonia. Prince Ali Kamal Fahmy Bey of the Egyptian royal family was shot by his wife months after visiting the tomb. Wolf Joel, a South African millionaire, drowned in the Nile right after seeing the tomb's golden mask. Dr. Archibald Douglas Reed, who x-rayed Tutankhamun's mummy, died of a strange illness. Even Arthur Mace, Carter's assistant who helped open the tomb, died not long after falling ill. Newspapers began numbering the victims: second man to die after tomb discovery, seventh victim of the curse, and so on. But what about Howard Carter? Surprisingly, the man who led the expedition and first entered the tomb lived until 1939, dying at age 64. But even Carter was rumored to be cursed. He developed Hodgkin's lymphoma and suffered for years before dying of a heart attack. So was the pharaoh's curse real? Or was there a more rational explanation? The scientific investigations. Some researchers proposed a biological explanation. According to this theory, when Carter and his team opened the tomb, they may have disturbed ancient dormant microorganisms, bacteria and fungi that had survived in the sealed darkness for thousands of years. To test this idea, scientists drilled into another 2,000-year-old sealed tomb and analyzed the air. They found extremely high levels of ammonia, formaldehyde, and hydrogen sulfide, all toxic gases. The tomb also contained Pseudomonas, which causes respiratory issues, and Staphylococcus, which can trigger fever and lung pain. Mold spores were also found on the mummies. In short, explorers may have walked into a biological minefield. Sounds plausible, right? Not so fast. Duolf Miller, a professor of epidemiology at the University of Hawaii, challenged the theory. He argued that while the microbes could be harmful, the doses weren't lethal. In fact, he noted that in 1920s Egypt, with poor sanitation and widespread disease, the air inside the tomb was likely cleaner than the air outside. Plus, microbial infections act fast, not months or years later. So maybe it wasn't germs. Maybe it was a curse. Or maybe something even more terrifying? A new theory in 2024? Radiation poisoning? In April 2024, scientist Ross Fellows published groundbreaking research in Scientific Exploration Journal. His study, Pharaoh's Curse, new evidence of anomalous deaths linked to ancient Egyptian tombs, made waves around the world. Fellows discovered that Tutankhamun's tomb contained naturally occurring uranium and other toxic radioactive materials. These elements may have been deliberately placed in the tomb to ward off looters, making the curse a calculated biological and radiological trap. This could explain the mysterious illnesses, the delayed symptoms, and the deaths from undiagnosable diseases. In essence, the curse was real, but it wasn't magic. It was ancient science. This raises a shocking question. Did ancient Egyptians understand radioactivity over 3,000 years ago? Modern scientists only discovered uranium's radioactivity in 1896, thanks to Henry Becquerel. At the time, even the best researchers didn't understand its effects on the human body. Could the Egyptians have known, centuries before the birth of modern physics, that radiation could kill? It's a mystery that only deepens the awe and respect we hold for their ancient civilization. The meteoric dagger of the Boy King. Tutankhamun's curse isn't the only enigma. Among the treasures found in his tomb was a 34.2 centimeters dagger, placed on his right thigh. The blade was made of iron, its handle of gold, and the sheath was adorned with intricate motifs, lilies on one side, feathers and jackals on the other. This surprised archaeologists, because Egypt's Iron Age began a century after Tutankhamun's death. Moreover, the blade didn't match common iron tools of the time. In 2016, scientists from Milan Polytechnic and the Egyptian Museum used X-ray fluorescence analysis to reveal the dagger's blade contained 11% nickel and 0.6% cobalt, a signature of meteoric iron. This discovery created yet another riddle. Meteoric iron is notoriously difficult to work with due to its fragility. Yet the blade was perfectly smooth and sharp, with no signs of hammering. Even with modern technology, crafting such a dagger would be difficult. So how did ancient Egyptians over 3,300 years ago master the art of forging space metal? Egypt continues to mesmerize because of mysteries like these. Whether it's a pharaoh's curse, radiation traps, or daggers from the stars, the land of the Nile never ceases to astound. As science pushes forward, we may one day uncover all the secrets of ancient Egypt. But until then, the story of Tutankhamun's tomb, and the curse that may have guarded it, will remain one of the most haunting legends ever unearthed.
Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Share it, because some stories are meant to be discovered together. And stay curious. I'll see you in the next chapter.